The Woman by the Lake. I remember the smell of pine needles and wet earth as if it were yesterday. It's funny how some memories lodge themselves so firmly in your mind that they become more vivid than the present. Fear does that. It etches itself deeper than happiness ever could. I was 16, naive, reckless, and convinced that the world was both enormous and safe. My friends had persuaded me to go camping in the mountains for a long weekend. The region was isolated, coniferous forests clinging to steep ridges, trails that wound like veins, and a small lake whose surface shimmered like glass, but held a darkness beneath it that I would later understand too well. The first night, we pitched our tents near the lake's edge. Moonlight glinted off the water, casting a silver sheen that seemed almost too perfect. My friends laughed around the crackling fire, passing around marshmallows, joking about ghosts and monsters. I smiled along, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the forest was alive, not with animals, but with something watching, waiting. I drifted off to sleep, the sounds of frogs and distant owls surrounding me, unaware that the next morning would change everything. It happened at dawn. The fog rolled over the lake like a living thing, curling around the trees and licking at the water's edge. I had woken early, restless, and walked down to the shore. The air was thick with mist and the faint tang of damp pine needles. That's when I saw her. She stood across the lake at the edge of the tree line, pale skin, dark hair plastered to her head, and eyes that seemed wrong, hollow, yet aware. I felt as though she had seen every thought in my head, every secret fear I'd ever had. "Guys, look! There's someone over there," I shouted, pointing. My friends turned, squinting through the mist, but she was gone, just the fog and the whisper of water. My heart pounded as I scanned the lake, certain she hadn't moved but knowing that they wouldn't see her. And in that moment, I understood the first rule. She was only for me. After breakfast, we hiked a trail that ran along the mountainside. I kept stealing glances toward the tree line, half expecting to see her, but the fog had lifted. My friends laughed, teasing each other about who was the best hiker while I trailed behind, my mind trapped in loops of fear. At lunch, we sat on fallen logs near the lake. I couldn't bring myself to speak of what I had seen. My voice might have been tremulous, betraying the panic clawing at me. I stared at the water, seeing shapes in the ripples that weren't really there. Or were they? That night, sleep was elusive. Each crack of a branch or rustle of a leaf made me jolt awake. The forest seemed to shift around our campsite, the darkness thicker than it should have been. And through it all, I felt her watching. Dawn broke in a faint blush over the lake, the mist curling like smoke. I was the first awake, drawn to the water. And there she was. The same spot, the same hollow stare. Her presence made the air feel heavy, pressing against my chest like stone. I didn't call out this time. I simply watched, frozen, unable to turn away. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. When she disappeared, the fog swallowing her whole, a part of me wanted to run. But I stayed, mesmerized. Later, while we hiked a narrow ridge trail, I kept glancing at the tree line, certain of movement. My friends were oblivious, laughing and joking, But I noticed subtle signs. Twigs bent as if someone had passed through, leaves pressed flat into the soil, faint scratches on tree bark that looked almost intentional. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, but the dread was gnawing, relentless. By the afternoon, I felt detached from my friends. They laughed, bickered, and argued about whose tent was best, but I could no longer hear them clearly. Every sound seemed muffled, distant. I was aware only of her. That night I lay awake, the forest alive with nocturnal noises. Every owl call and rustle sounded magnified, deliberate. Then came the footsteps. Slow, deliberate, on the mud outside our tents. I held my breath. They stopped. Silence. Then movement in the corner of my eye, shapes that vanished when I turned. Sleep was impossible. I stayed awake, tense, listening. I kept imagining her standing there, watching. The next morning, I saw her again, like clockwork, at the same place across the lake. I didn't call anyone this time. My stomach churned. Something was wrong. Something was watching. I began noticing other things. Broken branches near the water where no animal tracks appeared. Small, almost imperceptible indentations in the mud, like someone, or something, had walked there but left no clear trail. At lunch, I tried speaking, cautiously. "Has anyone seen the woman by the lake?" My friends laughed. "What woman?" I shook my head. Never mind. But the truth pressed at me. She was there, always there, waiting. The final night. I lay in my sleeping bag, listening. Every small sound, the rustle of leaves, the sigh of wind, made my heart leap. And then, footsteps, soft, careful, deliberate, approaching our tents. I froze. The steps stopped. I unzipped my tent slowly, trying not to make a sound. Moonlight spilled over the lake, silver and treacherous. And there she was. But this time she wore a mask. A wolf's face, grotesque and twisted, staring back at me. Shadows clung to it, moving like smoke. Her body was unnaturally still, rigid, yet alive with menace. I wanted to scream, to run, but my feet refused to move. Then she turned and I screamed. When my friends woke, bleary-eyed and confused, I told them everything. They looked at me with skepticism until they saw the prints in the mud near our tents. Large, four-toed, like a wolf had sprinted through our campsite. No sound, no animal, just prints. We packed in silence. Nobody spoke. The mountain seemed darker, heavier, as though it had exhaled its fear through us. I kept glancing at the lake, imagining her standing there, waiting. Even now, decades later, when I pass a quiet lake at dawn, my pulse quickens. My eyes scan the tree line, and I feel that same hollow stare watching me. Some part of me knows she's still out there, waiting, watching. And sometimes, I swear I hear her laughing, the whisper of paws in the mud,